Bumbo, what? Coin.
To be honest, I think that's the problem with this game. Hello, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com, and today we're going to talk a little bit about The Legend of Bumbo. So, as you can see straight away from this, it's an Edmund McMillen game, so you're looking at something very similar to The Binding of Isaac here in regard to your art style. And to be honest, it's meant to be a prequel to The Binding of Isaac. It's meant to be something that happened beforehand. You know, you're following this character Bumbo in very similar circumstances, but there's this different graphical shift to have this sort of cardboard feel. And I really wanted to like this. I was really looking forward to this coming out. I'd bought this already in advance, had everything ready to play it, and then it's just not very good, to be honest. And that's really hard for me to say, but it's just not very good. I think the issue is that a lot of people who played The Binding of Isaac when it first came out will remember that came out in a very beta style kind of route. Like, it was not completed. There was a lot of stuff that needed to be done before that game was, to be honest, ready to be sold. And people were angry about that at the time, but we forgave it over time because of the fact that the game progressed into what it is. Now, if you make that mistake once, as a developer that's making a new game or working on a new title in a series, I can totally understand that. But when you've had this debacle happen once already, you can't keep doing it. I'm sorry, you can't keep releasing games with problems and issues. So you'll see here, it's basically a tile match game. If you've got 4 in a row, you then gain that item. It's a little bit more complicated than that, because if you'll see on the right there, my items will be feeding in to give me power for like spells and things like that. But to be honest, it's okay, I suppose. But then you start coming into the problems. You have things like a lack of just any kind of interest in regard to exploration. You're not exploring like in Isaac, you're just on a set path, kind of average. You get things like this, like the items you can see here, they're kind of average too. They're not that different. And every time you play through, the bosses are the same. So if you play through this first part of the game, yep, your first boss, as far as I can tell from multiple runs myself, is always going to be the Duke of Flies. It's always going to be the same. You might get a different spell maybe, but it's going to basically be the same thing. I mean, I played this at night time and I was really looking forward to this. I thought this is going to be my relaxing game for the evening. Like Binding of Isaac, really. I was going to throw myself in, do a few runs, just experience what the game had on offer, really. Just get into everything and just see how it plays. And I just ended up just bored. Just bored and bewildered. Don't get me wrong, I like things like Puzzle Quest. I like those kind of games. I'm interested in doing something different. I'm not expecting The Binding of Isaac again. But at the same time, you can't just give something out like this with so many issues. To put in perspective the kind of issues you're talking about, there are game-breaking bugs where the game will just shut down, for example. Sometimes it will freeze. Sometimes you will find that items won't register. Sometimes you'll find that you'll be going through a level and you'll just end up outnumbered. Sometimes you won't be able to pick between different enemies. So say if there's 2 enemies in the same lane, you cannot pick which one to attack. And they could attack you from any range. So for example, the Duke of Flies here, one of the runs I did against him, he could immediately signal attack and immediately attack. So there was nothing I could do. It was just, yeah, it's just not great. I don't think that there's been a game like this for a while that I've been so excited for and then just so disappointed in. And I think the problem is that people were making the argument that, oh, we should stick with this game and see how it progresses. But at the same time, you cannot release a game like this with so many issues after you've already had an experience that should have taught you that you cannot do those things. And the best way to put it is, how many times now on the channel have we looked at games for £2, £3, a couple of dollars, barely anything, that have gone above and beyond to deliver good gameplay, fun, functional gameplay, with interesting music, with interesting game design, with all of these things going on. Whereas here, yeah, the game looks nice, the cardboard aesthetic is okay, but the assets are basically the same, aren't they? I mean, all of the enemies look the same, as like a nod to Isaac, I suppose, but that means, well, you know, there's not a lot of new things to look at here. And as far as the gameplay goes, it's kind of standard. There are issues with it. I'm not that happy with it. And it's over very, very quickly. There's not... You'll see very soon what I mean by that. But another really good example is the options menu has no sound options. So you literally cannot adjust the sound. You have to either mute the game or have the sound blasting out. There is no in between. And when you eventually do get to the stage where you start enjoying like the gameplay loop or having a decent run, it's just, yeah, you know, it's not exactly like Isaac, where in Isaac you'll find, okay, I'll get different weapons, I'll find a different way to attack here, I'll have a completely different build. No, you won't have that. You'll still be moving tiles, and none of these powers will really affect that. You'll occasionally get powers that allow you to block off lanes, for example, but the game is so unforgiving that it's not enjoyable to experience this and experiment around. You can die so fast, and it's just a case of you just get overwhelmed. I mean, the problem I had here with the Duke of Flies, fought him a couple of times, you either get lucky or you don't. And that's basically the premise. It's not a case of, okay, you can outmaneuver this. If you're not lucky, you can't win. And it's that simple, really. I think the reason why I'm being so harsh is because Ed McMillen created like The Binding of Isaac, a couple of other games as well that I really enjoyed. So I have a certain standard that I expect from him. I want to see games that I will remember and play regularly. I mean, The Binding of Isaac, I must have bought that game, I don't know, 3 times. It's a really good game to play with friends, you know, just to have them over playing it. You can chat and play. It's a good game for like parties and things like that, just to have a laugh and just have it on in the background. This is just, yeah, you know, I bet the best way to put it is this felt like a chore. By the time I finished doing this video, I'd played through a couple of times, unlocked some more bits, and I just wasn't interested. I mean, here you'll see me beat the Duke of Flies. Okay, interesting. What's next, I wonder? Oh, right. Oh, it's the credits. Oh. Don't get me wrong, there's a little cutscene. I don't want to show you that in case you do play. I don't want to spoil that for you. But you basically unlock something else. Nothing major, though. Nothing major, though. You unlock a new character that plays basically very, very similarly to who you're playing as already. And you unlock a new area. Okay, fair enough, I thought. Maybe the game will... Maybe it'll open out. No. Just the same, really. No real differences. You do get stuff like this after your first run, so you can finish the game and then you unlock the ability to purchase new spells or re-roll your abilities or, for example, take a gamble with the coins you've made. But there's no real point. I mean, it doesn't feel like, you know, if you get, for example, a boost on different abilities, like here I think I get a boost on the number of moves I've got. Yeah, that's all well and good, but yeah, it doesn't really make me want to play anymore because I don't feel any stronger. I'm still just moving tiles around. And I think that's the difference with like Isaac, for example. And I know I'm harping on about that, but I don't think you can avoid that with something that's billing itself as part of that series. But, you know, you can't just... It's just boring. The best way to put it is it just gets boring. Like here, for example, here's the new area. It's still a cardboard box. The enemies are very similar. The other issue is that the music we were talking about earlier, it's so tiresome and tedious. It will just loop over and over again on a far too short a loop. And again, when you look at games we've reviewed recently for the price that we've paid for them, you can't do this. I'm sorry, you can't do that kind of thing. It's a shame because I think part of the reason why I'm so disappointed is because I was expecting so much. I was hoping for something that I'd get endless replayability from, that I'd regularly be able to play, that I'd get that same kind of gameplay loop but completely fresh. But instead it was just, yeah, you know, a lot of your victory relies on random number generation. It's just sad. I mean, a lot of people are giving Edmund McMillen a free pass on this because of the fact that they liked his old projects and they've said, oh yeah, you know, what we need to do is wait and support the project as it grows. But the issue I've got with that is you wouldn't stand for that with a AAA release. We haven't stood for that with a AAA release. If you look at things like Anthem, if you look at things in the past like the original Destiny, if you look at things like the first Division, fair enough, they got to that point in the end, but people were angry about that at the start and we didn't agree with it, and it's not a good idea. Developers, I'm sorry, but unless you build your game as early access, you cannot give unfinished projects across to your fan base, because you have to understand that fans are paying for this. People are paying for this. People are paying to have a full experience. And I'm sorry, say for example with me, I always go back to how I felt as a kid, which I think is why I'm being so harsh. I go back to how I felt as a kid on, say, Christmas Day or a birthday, when you're not very well off and you get games as and when you can afford them, when you haven't got a huge amount of disposable income, you do want a full experience. You want a certain feeling from a game. And I'm sorry, but you cannot, especially with kids or especially with people who don't have a huge income, you can't then say, oh well, yeah, we'll get there in the end. You paid for it today, it'll be a full game and finished in about, I don't know, 4 months. Because I'm sorry, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. You've got a fan base out there who are clamouring for more of what you do best. And we've seen from things like Doom Eternal, we've seen from other games that have been delayed recently, you will not get a fan backlash from delaying a game. People will understand. I will understand, loads of fans will understand, and will support that. In essence, avoiding crunch periods and assisting developers to make complete games rather than half-arsed things, we will support that. But I'm sorry, just bringing something out and saying you'll get to it later, I'll do the best I can, well, I'm sorry, you can't take money off of someone and then agree that you'll probably sort it out later and it'll probably be a slow process. I know it sounds like I've been really, really harsh with this, guys, but I think the reason for that is I was just expecting so much. And I'm just disappointed. The best way to put it is I'm just disappointed. At this point in time, I wouldn't recommend it. Let's put it that way. Maybe it'll get to that stage where it's a great game soon, but at this moment, there's no point. Anyway though, thank you for watching this video, guys. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It really helps out when it comes to making content. And also head over to nextstepnick.com for all the latest articles, news, reviews and videos. Other than that, thank you very much and I'll see you very soon.